She said, baby, can you show me something? I said, baby, come close and understand.
Easier for me, I put that soul in as a man. You've always been drawn to clothes, right? Since a little girl, no?
Yeah, so I've grown up around textiles, knitting, crochet, making garments. So my mum had a knitting business. So I've kind of grown up around seeing a lot of knitwear and a lot of like balls of yarn everywhere and all that kind of stuff. So that's always been really cool. And then my grandma's always hand knitted as well, so I've seen her knitting growing up. And my mum has a lot of like love for crafts, so we would often go to like a craft shop and look at things and go on some workshops together as well. So that was always really nice growing up. And then I became a teenager. And I went down a dark route, and I wasn't really interested in sewing for a bit, for about maybe 3 or 4 years. I did it at school because you had to, and when you picked like your GCSEs, I did pick textiles. So I did have an interest there, but my main interests were diverted somewhere else. And those interests that I had diverted to ended up becoming very unhealthy and negative. And I ended up having some bad experiences, too many times. And then the worst experience became the time where I developed PTSD from it. And I didn't leave the house for about 3 months because I was so traumatized from the experience. I pushed myself away from all of my friends, so I was alone, or at least I felt alone.
What was your response to your trauma, and how did it help you to include it into your work, you know?
Well, my response to the trauma was the sewing. So when I mentioned earlier that I didn't leave the house for 3 months, it was during the summer holidays, and I got given a summer project by my textiles tutor at college. And this was a project that like you didn't get graded on, so no one did it, right? Because it's the summer holidays, you're gonna go and have fun with your friends and maybe go to festivals or go on holiday or whatever. And because I didn't leave the house, because I was going through so much of a trauma response to what I had experienced, I explored this project and I realized that I really enjoyed it, and that I realized that it was helping me heal from what I was going through. And so that was like a huge moment for me, because I was able to use textiles as a way to release the build-up of thoughts, emotions and feelings. And it felt like I was able to kind of replace that kind of pull that I had towards drugs, or self-harming. I self-harmed a lot as well, because it's like you want to like escape, right, from the reality of your situation, or you want to be able to release the pain that you're experiencing. So that's why I went into drugs and self-harming. But with the sewing, I realized that I could do the exact same, but it was a healthy thing. So I created this like humongous project over the summer holidays. I had like a humongous sketchbook, and it was A3 in size, and you couldn't even close it because it was so jam-packed. And I created like a whole garment, and I remember like taking it in September to show my tutor, and she was like, what? Because like no one does it because you don't get graded. So it's like, but that's how I just completely threw myself in for the whole 3 months. Like I became obsessed. I became like addicted to doing it, like the sketching, the drawing, the photography, the sampling, just being creative. Like I felt like I was becoming me again, and it felt really free. Made myself feel like I was able to kind of free myself from the past self that I was, and I felt healthy. I felt like my brain was kind of like coming back to normal, just, you know. And the big thing is that I was able to release the build-up of pain that I was experiencing. Like that was a huge thing for me, in a way that was healthy, meaningful, and could really benefit me on the long run. So that was kind of my breakthrough with realizing
That's
my love for it.
Brilliant. So can you tell us a bit about your relationship with material, color, shapes, and into the healing process?
Well, yeah, like you said, I love wool. I think it's a fantastic material. It can keep you warm in the winter, it can keep you cool in the summer. And because I come from a tailoring background, wool is great for like molding and shaping a garment for a person's body and their shape. So I love that. I love how it kind of behaves when you put heat to it, and how you can kind of sculpt it like a sculpture. That's why a lot of my garments are quite sculptural. There's a great mill called Fox Brothers in Somerset, which is where I'm from. So that was my first experience of going to like a mill to see the wool being created. And then I had like a very short internship there as well when I was at college, which was awesome. So I shadowed like the designer who created the designs of the fabric. So I got to see kind of the program that she used and the process that she goes through.
What sort of shape or what sort of style would you describe yours?
Asymmetric, very sculptured. So I do make a lot of suits, jackets, trousers, skirts, but I also make dresses as well. Yeah, asymmetry is my signature design, but ultimately, you know, I'm working with a client, so the garment will reflect what they want, what works for them, and all that. Things are always very sculptured. Like I like to create like a base underneath, so you know the person. So first of all, the garment's really robust and long-lasting, and a lot of longevity in it. But also, you know, to keep the shape of the garment is really important, and also like it can also help you hold yourself, like make yourself stand tall, which you know can contribute to your mental health in terms of like the way that your posture, you know, can make you feel confident, even if you don't feel confident necessarily in that moment. Like you can kind of trick your brain into like
the power
being,
of the suit.
Yeah, there is a psychological element to it. I think the way that you kind of hold yourself.
I've seen that you in the document that you sent me, there's a lot of anger and you know and frustration from in the performance, you know, but there's also beauty and grace because there is dancers, right? People are dancing. How from where did this inspiration came from?
The protest came from Eva, so it was her idea, the woman I'm collaborating with. And she really liked the idea of kind of a protest symbolizing, and like a march symbolizing kind of the frustration of how mental health is being perceived in society. And linking it with mental health stigma is really good as well, because people who are stigmatized and discriminated against, you know, there is a lot of anger and frustration there, and I'm seeing it a lot with the interviews that I'm conducting with people who have got these lived experience. So anger, upset, rage is definitely like a big thing.
And anger is a desire for change too.
Exactly. It's like I think anger is a healthy emotion for people to experience. Like it's not like a negative or like scary thing. No. I think it's healthy to like use it as an outlet, right? For making change. And I have also seen with the people I'm interviewing and having conversations with about their experiences, and a lot of like I see like a common thread around mental health stigma and the way it kind of shows up. And it's interesting because a lot of the times it doesn't always have to come up with words. It can come up with action, kind of actions and body language about like maybe in like the workplace, about how they're being perceived from their mental health condition, you know, that lack of care, that lack of like support in place for that person going through it. So then it makes sense for anger, rage and frustration to come out because you're not being supported or you don't feel safe. Part-time, I work for Mind outside of this job, and I'm doing a really big project with the charity on workplace in the mental health.
Wow.
So I work for a local mind called Mind in Kingston, and we're currently creating this framework for businesses to adopt for their organisation to help support their employees, and we're currently piloting it with 2 businesses, and it's going really, really well, where they implement actions into their workplace to support their employees. So it's like creating that change that's really needed, I think. So kind of like dealing with it from that perspective, I think would really help. This is a garment that I'm actually making for myself, where I'm weaving my own mental health story into the garment, around trauma and PTSD and sexual violence. So that's something that I'm working on at the moment. I can talk about it a little bit, but I do want to kind of launch it first myself. So I am influenced by kintsugi, which is the Japanese art of pottery where things get broken, like pottery. Well, that's essentially where it started, is that the pottery gets broken, but there's a way that you can mend it back together, and so you can continue using it. And then there's also a beauty in that kind of repair with the cracks, they're filled with gold. And I think that's a really beautiful metaphor for trauma and healing, because you've gone through something really traumatic, really harrowing, that really puts you down to like rock bottom. But over time, through healing, when you feel you're ready, you can begin to repair yourself, build yourself back up to get to, you know, the person that you want to be, and you can become strong again. And that speaks to me on a real personal level. So I'm basically going to be having embroidery dotted around on the top bit of kintsugi inspired, so as if there's like a crack coming out of the garment, and I'm going to have it like dotted around all on the top part, but that's kind of to represent my scars, both like physically and mentally, you know, reminding myself that I have gone through this really awful experience, but I have been able to come out the other end, and I'm stronger for it, and through my experiences I can help other people with shared experiences.
Finding gratitude, changing my attitude. Finding gratitude, changing my attitude.